Move on to our panel discussion. We have about 20 minutes. The mic is in the center here, and so I'll invite everybody to come and ask questions. So we take this opportunity. We have almost 20 minutes for this. So we don't want to practice just silence for 20 minutes.
Just two short questions one for Karim Sharif sir. A very excellent presentation.
I'll invite him to join us here, please.
One is regarding evolution. It's fine. I think as far as I have read the writings of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and even Huzur in our mulaqat with the Sunisa students, Huzur actually dismisses a lot of Darwinist theory. And Khalid Asani has actually said that humans actually evolved separately from other animals in Seri Ruhani. So I just wanted to ask, where did humans actually separate from that line of tree of life? And does the scientific community have any consensus on that matter in this regard?
Yes, a very good question. Hazrat Prophet Islam was asked if it is true that man has evolved from monkey. And his answer was very clear there. But we do not believe that man was at once monkey and then the tail was cut off and a few other changes occurred and that became man. If that is so, one should produce such a monkey that would become a human. And I gave very clearly in my presentation, Darwinian theory does not propose that either. There is 6 million years of era in which only human ancestors inhabited the land. They had nothing to do with monkeys or apes. So ape genera, they branched out more than 6 million years ago. And from then on, all the human ancestors had been propagating in different branches, and now they have even all gone extinct. And only Homo sapiens are around. Now, going back to the tree of life, scientifically speaking, also you can see that the tree gives you a very clear line from start of life to end at humans, and all are branching out from there. So that's exactly what Hazrat Khalifa Masih Sani says, that man was always created as man, meaning it was with that purpose and it was evolving to become human, and other branches were coming out of it. They were not to become human. The initial purpose of Allah was to create man, and it says in even Holy Quran, you were grown as vegetables. So it tells you very clearly that you went through different conditions, but that was your ancestral lineage for the purpose of becoming human. And other life forms did arise from there, but for the service of mankind. If they were not there, we could not have sustained. I hope that answers your question.
My question is, the Quran Allah says that look at my creation again and again, and research will come back to you, but you will find the flaw in my creation. But we see that a lot of children, they're born like autistic or schizophrenic. Some are born like third gender. So is there any contradiction between the two? You won't see any flaw in the creation, but we see people.
So, first of all, understand that there the question is it fault in God's creation or is it the fault of our intervention? It is very clearly demonstrated that most or all congenital problems, they are coming because of our lifestyle. So if you look at for instance, there is a hadith, do you find any cattle with kankati? That among cattle, among animals, you will find no such creation. But when it comes to human, and more recently, because of environmental pollution, we have started insulting the book of life tremendously. So the onus is on us, Vaiza of Maristo. And Yashpeen also is coming because Allah Ta'ala is now enhancing our understanding of genomics, and we are trying to correct that situation. So the problem is coming from our end, not from Creator's end.
And let me just add a slightly different angle to it also. The beauty of God's creation needs to be examined in somewhat like a poetic sense. I mean, if we, in a poetic sense, try to admire the creation and look at the beautiful aspects, then we can understand them, admire them. But there are definitely diseases, and there are even some congenital abnormalities. Some of them existed even before. So if we take that verse in a legalistic sense, arguing like a lawyer, then we'll not understand the meaning of that verse. So we have to understand God's creation in the bigger scheme of things, in the scheme of the Big Bang, the astronomy, through the process of evolution, and admire God's creation in a slightly poetic sense, then we'll understand the importance of that verse of the Quran.
Just to add to that, for instance, give you an example here. There are quite a few examples, like Tay-Sachs disease. It started in Jewish population who were in Poland, Ashkenazi Jews. And the reason was that they were forced into stay in ghettos, and there were no sanitary facilities there. So tuberculosis would break out among them. And now there was a parallel mutation that would create Tay-Sachs disease. If you are homogeneous in that, then the child would die within 4 years. And if you are heterozygous, you will not get tuberculosis. So it's Allah's mercy there that mutation came. That's a congenital disease, but you are protected.
Wonderful. Yes.
May I ask a question on honeybees?
Sure, but give 1 second.
One comment on this point about the question of suffering and why do we have diseases. I again recommend to everyone the questions and answers that are available online of the Khulafa, and in a questions and answer session with Hazrat Khalifah Masih IV, Rahimahullah, Huzur mentioned that if we didn't have knowledge of, or if these monogenic, for example, diseases did not exist, we wouldn't understand the importance of these genes. And fortunately, on the whole, as a pediatrician, I can tell you that these are rare diseases. They are obviously devastating to those who suffer from them, but they also help us understand the importance of these phenomena that are missing. And then conversely, as Dr. Ziya mentioned, there is now a major breakthrough. In fact, many people thought that the Nobel Prize would have been won on this system this year, but maybe next year or in the coming years on DNA editing. And the ability to take gene mutations, especially if they're single mutations, and to swap them for a corrected sequence. And then there are reports, for example, for muscular dystrophy and so on in animal models. And inshallah, there's promise for cures for them.
Yes.
In regards to honeybees, somebody mentioned about swarming, and when they're looking for second house, when they're looking for second house, do they sting any animals or humans? I have a second question also.
Assalamu alaikum. In fact, they are not looking for a second house. They are looking for a permanent house or home for them. And normally for stinging the bees, you have to provoke in them a certain behavior that is home defense. So if they are not defending their home, they will be totally peaceful and they will not sting. This is why, as they are homeless when the swarm is moving to a permanent permanent house, they are homeless, so they don't have this behavior of home defense. So people, the public, they know that a swarm will not sting for that reason.
Second question is there anything called bad bee, like a bumblebee, one that really ugly looking?
Okay, somebody of the children asked me a similar question. In fact, all the bees, they are all beneficial and they all contribute in the pollination, bumblebees or wild bees or the domestic bees. But the most efficient pollinator for the bees is the honeybee, Apis mellifera sp. So, but they have all a beneficial role in our life. So we don't really have bad bees.
Actually, I don't have a question. I have a complimentary addition to my learned friend, Dr. Karim Sharif speech. In early 1980s, I think 82 or 83, Khalifatul Masih Rabi, fourth Khalifa, was in Germany, in Frankfurt. Had a question and answer session, and probably a German journalist asked him the same question of evolution, what Islam thinks or Holy Quran states about that. And so far, I have one answer fresh in my memory, which might help to understand that. He said, why it stopped? If there was an evolution of monkeys turning into human beings, why it stopped? He questioned that journalist that is the human species increasing or the animal species increasing? Which one? So the guy answered that it's a human species. He said, so your answer states that human beings are increasing in number in this world, and a lot of other species, you know, even they are lost, like dinosaurs and others. So his answer was very straight and very short. He said, why it stopped? Can you explain it? Thank you very much.
I don't know who, one of the scientists I'd like to ask. What is your response to the new Darwinist argument that the Mandelbrot fractals demonstrate an example in nature where complexity can develop from simplicity, and that complexity basically has no inherent design, but it does result in complexity, and therefore you don't need a creator. So specifically fractals and Mandelbrot.
I don't know the specific processes, but basically, I mean, the theory of evolution, they talk about the mutation is random, but whatever that creates has to have a utilitarian purpose. Like, for example, they just showed that Tay-Sachs disease was saving people from tuberculosis. Likewise, in Africa, for example, the sickle cell disease became important because sickle cell was saving people from malaria. Complexity can only incrementally arise out of simple things if there's some sort of selective process. And as believers, we believe that God was guiding the process, that's the guided evolution. But Darwin has proposed natural selection, and then there may be additional natural mechanisms which may not have been proposed yet or argued for yet. So life is always made of two prongs, our natural activity and God's providence. So both may be at play, and that's how species came to be and so forth.
So just to add more to it, your question, the model which predicts that you can get from complexities, simplicity, complexity, I gave you some calculations there. Just to create one protein, which is the shortest protein, we need 10 to the power 67 combinations. And we don't even have that many seconds from the start of the Earth. Now, Dr. Abdul Salam Saab brings a very, very important point here, that if you look at the creation, all these phenomena are occurring, so not at the equilibrium, but much earlier. So for instance, if you were to wait for 10 to 67th combination to be that protein, there's no hope. It has to come around very early on. But why it is that it happened for 1600 different genes very early on, that the life could occur within that short period of time. And he says that phenomena goes back to even Big Bang. Within 3 seconds, a very critical decision was made that only hydrogen and helium will be formed, and then it will stop there, so the suns and the stars can be formed. After that, it resumed again to form more elements that created the planets. So you see, there is always a question there. Yes, from random chance it was possible, but that random chance becomes more than astronomical. How is it possible that in every case it happened much before equilibrium? And that's Yudabbir Ulam, Allah sends the command.
How did this DNA code was generated? And when the DNA code was not recognized that this intelligent system prevailed, but code existed at that time, which was the other debate.
So this is a question I did not even address because that brings very long debate. The problem, there is a very big chicken and egg problem. The DNA itself is inert. It cannot do anything till it is transcribed into RNA, and then that is translated into proteins. To do this job, we need proteins. So how would you get protein to do the job? So it's like Ma Jamili, the both quote Khalifa Rabi gives the example that the mother is not born yet and the son is already playing around. So scientists are proposing that before DNA there was RNA world, and RNA was able to catalyze its own reactions. Now artificially we have found we can create some RNA molecules that can do some catalysis. In nature we do not find that example. So current dogma is that before DNA world there was an RNA world, but once the DNA was synthesized by RNA by some mysterious mechanism which we have no knowledge of how it happened, then it resulted in production of somehow proteins, and they took over. Then the RNA was not needed anymore, so it was eliminated.
So the last question is that why are the expected countless millions transitional fossils are missing? You know, in the life tree, those species who were there to make the life of Homo sapiens sustain, the link is missing. I mean, there's countless, millions and millions and billions. So is there any clue, like we get whenever a fossil is dug and the DNA is there as it is, but those which are missing, is there any clue about that? The scientists are going to use that.
Well, I do not know what do you mean by missing. There is one is that they are missing from fossil record. What other?
Yeah, exactly. Fossils.
The fossil record, you know, fossils occur only out of a very strange accidental phenomenon. When suddenly an eruption of volcanic activity occurs or sedimentation of rocks occurs, at that time some life forms will be preserved. Other than that, for maybe several thousand to million years, if that accident does not happen, nothing will be preserved. So when somebody dies, you bury that person and that's about it, it's decomposed.
So that means this one life is not enough. This life is not enough. And more science and Quran conferences should have. Every year, twice a year.
So your question should have been why they were eliminated though.
Yeah, this is what I want to know. Was there a clue why they were eliminated?
Yes.
I think it's quite obvious because of the catastrophes or the volcano, they say, the
No.
floods.
So there are two reasons there then. One, which I mentioned, that catastrophe again came with the command of Allah because we were to be created. If that did not happen 65 million years ago, today we would not be here. Okay, that was precisely done. And there are 4 different such major catastrophes recorded in ancient history before that. If they did not happen, we would not have dinosaurs either. So dinosaurs were around, we would not be here either. The other is why, so evolution predicts that so far all these species that were created, 99% of them have gone extinct. That means they do not live anymore. And that's where Allah Ta'ala's makhluk haza batila. They've served their purpose for their era. Once their job was done, they were eliminated. Yes.
Jazakallah. So before we have the concluding remarks, I'll ask my co-moderators, Masood Malik Saab and Naseem Ali Saab, if they have any comments to make.
My question is that how honeybees connect to each other and talk?
Honeybees. So we have the expert on honeybees here, two experts.
My response is very good. Honeybees are unique in the animal kingdom that they actually can, they somehow have a communication system. They talk to each other. But their talking is not like our talking. Their talking is a dance. So honeybee goes out, looks at different flowers and wants to tell comes back and wants to tell the other bees where the flower is, and so they can go there. So it comes back, it makes it does a dance. It's called a dance, but it actually moves in a certain way where other bees can look and check, and then they can follow the same instructions. So the bees are very, very efficient in information transfer between the species. So you can say it's a dance, and the person who actually discovered it won the Nobel Prize, the first Nobel Prize in this field. So maybe if you find something else, you can win a Nobel Prize.
All right, so with that,
Mr. Saab, if you have any question, please.
Is founded now of the honey. So I have been using honey for over 40 years. I am now, mashallah, 480. So I don't have any problem with my things. And the thing I would say, he especially asked me to participate in the dance competition. Then I was 54 years old. So I went from Islamabad and from Grandmaster to Istanbul, non-stop. And I have my record. Still no dance from down anyone has not broken that record. So I just wish to that honey should be used, but in no form. I would say that it should not be a commercially produced. It's not the real honey, but it should be used in its pure form and with hops, with rest. So that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Next please.
Assalamualaikum. I think can I comment on this?
Yeah.
Can you repeat that also what he said? Couldn't hear.
I think the point was that the gentleman had used honey for 40 years and he feels as good as he was when he was a young man, and he can eat any khadim in competitions or exposed competitions. I think that's a very good. He said that he has no problem with it. And that's actually a very interesting point, because Prophet ﷺ has said that honey strengthens bones. He has actually written that, and no research has been done on this, which is quite surprising. That what's the effect of ingesting honey and what's the effect of it strengthening bones? There's a lot of research that needs to be done in honey, and a lot of anecdotal knowledge is there in the world. For example, cedar honey from Morocco is especially good for some disease. In Pakistan, some honey is good for other diseases. In part, there's honey for heart disease. Now, all that knowledge has to be brought together. So I think this and honey, when you take it, you just anecdotal evidence is not there, scientific evidence is not there.
Because there is a long line for questions, so I will request please.
Quick question for Professor Sansar. As you were, I was thinking about your presentation, my mind went in the direction of cloning, because what you're describing, it could be extended into cloning. So is that something that occurs to you, and are you afraid of that and the consequences?
Altai, for that question. The question was, does this idea of reprogramming cells overlap with cloning, and is there some concern? I think that someone actually won the Nobel Prize, 2 or 3 folks about 2 years ago, for creating cells that had a stem cell potential. And I think if you use it for the right purpose, then it's always good. But you can always use it for the wrong purpose, and that's what we'll talk about later today.
Assalamualaikum. I'm Zia Shah from upstate New York. I really enjoyed the incident of Dr. Marshall by Dr. Fizan Abdullah. And obviously faith is very important in religion and in many matters of life. Without faith in the providence of God, our life is doomed to be anxious and depressed and so forth. But in science, we also have certain importance for doubt. Before European Renaissance, people believed in the authority of Aristotle so much that they would rather quote him rather than do an experiment. So I'll ask the panel if they want to comment on the role of doubt in science.
Yes, lengthy answer, needs some lengthy answer, so if you could make in 1 minute some quick role of whole should take.
There's no doubt that doubt is necessary.
That's the best answer. Next,
this question is for Dr. Ijaz Ahmed. When you mentioned that the creation of brand new chemicals and organic material to extract ore, what is the process of improving those? In light of everything that's happened, fracking and all that. Just regarding the approval of these new processes that you're studying, how they're affecting the environment will be and stuff like that. What is the approval process for those?
So our goal with a lot of the current methods, they are using very volatile and harmful chemicals that basically they're also very flammable too. And what we're trying to develop is something that uses mostly water-based solutions, so it can be more environmentally friendly. And the types of compounds that I'm synthesizing are easily synthesized. They don't require too long of a process. So it's something I'm trying to improve upon by reducing costs, but also reducing harm to the environment. And that's kind of the goal that I'm trying to do.
Thank you. Since most of the audience are not scientists or have limited knowledge of science, can you please explain to them what do you mean by rare earth metals, and do you find them in TVs, computers, and if they do, how do they recycle them?
So there are very limited methods for recycling rare earth metals, and the current methods are very laborious, and they're very harsh conditions, and we cannot recycle each and every metal. So a lot of times certain parts of electronic equipment get recycled and used again, but the individual elements do not get used up again.